can't find a seconder usually when I propose this, but I don't care. I don't need a seconder. My own opinion is enough for me, and I claim the right to have it defended against any consensus, any majority, anywhere, any place, any time. And anyone who disagrees with this can pick a number, get online, kiss my ass.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed are greater than the legal services provided by other lawyers. You found the Backstory Podcast. I'm Harry Steele. I'm a candidate for the position of mayor in Bay Minette, my little hometown. And I'm joined in studio by former SWAPA director Van Davis. How you doing, Van? And then my partner in crime, Mr. Rip. How you doing down there in Fairhope, Mr. Rip?
Real good, real good. Representing the Rip Report, a not-for-profit consumer association.
Today, with the support of Dr. Harris, I'm extending our current Safer at Home order until the end of August with a few minor modifications, which I will explain in just a minute. Y'all, these decisions are not easy, and they're certainly not fun. And there's no way in the world you're ever going to make everybody happy 100% of the time. But one thing is for sure. Tough decisions are a lot easier to make when you're on the sidelines than when you're actually in the arena. Now, I've said many times since my very first press conference, back when we were all still learning how to pronounce coronavirus, that when you've been elected governor, you've got to try to do the right thing, not necessarily the most popular thing. And there is such a fine balance, as we have discussed countless times, in factoring both the human health as well as the economic health into the equation. And as I've said before, my administration and I have made our share of mistakes during this pandemic, but our goal has always been to make more good decisions than bad, hopefully leading to more positive results along the way. As for today's new order, this will include extending our statewide mask ordinance through August 31st. And while no one enjoys wearing a mask, I'd be the first to tell you that because of the help and support we've gotten from our friends in retail and business, I believe we are making progress in this arena. Y'all, we just must remain vigilant if we're going to get our kids back in school and keep our economy open. And wearing a mask can't hurt, but it sure can help. And more people are seeing this for what it is, a way to protect yourself as well as to protect the others that you work with, come in contact with, care about, and those you even love.
All right, well, keep talking because I got to get this COVID stuff up.
Well, we could go over one of the little bit of good news, a little bit more lighter than what we normally carry, and the Lanyap. First of all, NAPPY awards are next week, so anybody who wants to get their vote in needs to do that. And there's an article in there, Healthy Gift. It's from the MAP family donates family property for USA Health campus. This is about an 8-acre, $2 million piece of property on 181 and 104, right outside Fairhope, and it's designed by Matt Walcott. He's out of Fairhope, and it's going to include a 30,000 square foot, 2-story medical building, 25,000 square foot surgery center, and 25,000 square foot, 2-story educational facility. And the Mapp family, they're caring, they're devoted to the community and the betterment of it, and they are different makers, Bailey said, of the maps. Quite a gift from them. I've heard of the family before and their philanthropic endeavors. But
and if we all survive, it'll be a really nice hospital.
Well, it being a good location too. It'd be right there off 181. That whole corner used to be 4 cotton fields when I moved here, and slowly but surely they're eating up every single corner on it.
So let's do some COVID numbers. 17 million That's still crazy. 334,539 confirmed cases worldwide, with 674,038 deaths. The U.S. topping the scales at 4,496,737 confirmed cases, with 152,074 deaths. That's a bunch of people, Paul.
I remember when we were at 60,000, and that was scary enough, and then going over 100, then going over all the wars since Korea, and now we're headed toward a number of 200,000, and we still have people that think it's a hoax. But and we're doing worse than just about any country in the world. So hopefully we're going to wake up before we hit that 200,000 mark.
So Alabama, 85,278 confirmed cases, with right at 1,531 deaths, 1,531 deaths. And it looks like we're, what is that? About 2,000 cases a day. It's like yesterday we were just under.
But even at that, Baldwin County, we've been very, very, very lucky. We've been spared a lot. And that's because of, we're not in Huntsville, Birmingham, Montgomery, Mobile, where the density level is so high. And I believe that's the major drive in it.
So can I tell you what I think the major drive might be?
Sure.
The fact that you can't get a test in Baldwin County and everybody's going to Mobile County, where they're real easy to get. Well,
that's the same thing we were talking about a while ago about getting out of jail. But I'll wait till we get back over on that article.
All right. So we've done a couple of interviews, or I have, and one of the issues that came up when I was interviewing city council candidate Steve Gibson was the Stonebridge Project, Paul. Are you seeing that? So this is the golden triangle between the divergence of 31 and 59 in Stapleton. And
so developer's dream.
A developer's dream. Well, here's the problem. The reason the road splits there and goes this way and that way is this is the headwaters of Fish River. Nobody in their right mind would have tried to put a road through here, much less cram 7,000 houses, a new school, and who knows what else is going in here. But anyway, it's all master planned. The PUD's been approved. And of course, it's been approved by Loxley, which no one would have had any idea that any of this was in the town of Loxley. Would you have known that?
No.
Nobody.
No.
All right. So do you want to talk elections?
A little bit. I still want to do a little bit more research, on different people in different cities. But I am getting from, Tip the Ripster. I had some people call me from Spanish Fort and said, do you know what's going on up here? And they had some story there involving the city clerk and who's running for mayor and all of this. So I'm going to try to get to the bottom of that to where I can tell a good story. And then in Daphne, it looks like we interviewed, you did, Selena. It looks like she's doing very well over there. And then there's a couple of Daphne, what we thought were catalyst people running for office that are now trying to say they're not catalysts. So I don't know whether they're just trying to say that, maybe it's Scott Boone or something like that, but all of them signs, those of you that are in the know, all of the catalyst signs are made with a PVC frame, which identifies them very easily. Why they do that, I don't know, unless they just mass produce the signs, I guess. Somebody's making money off the signs. But anyway, and that Daphne race is going to be really hot. I can tell you that's probably go into a runoff there. And then in Fairhope, we on the RIP report just Wednesday, Wonderful Wednesday, was oil slick, and we featured the BP guy on the paddleboard, and he didn't seem to have a sense of humor about it, because one of the things we pointed out was that he's monitoring his site and editing it and dropping people. So if you go to the site, some of us, like me, I don't think he likes me. You will only see share. It will not have any way that you can comment or any way that you can interchange and ask a question. So, and then Harry.
But there's no way to post anything to the page.
Okay, look, the other thing too was this came up. It's in Oil Slick. Go to ripreport.com and you can read it. But the other thing was they were proposing a pledge called Good Vibes. Okay, now this Good Vibes pledge is a long pledge, and they wanted the mayor and the council in Fairhope to sign it. So everybody would be nice and sweet to each other, wouldn't talk about their past, wouldn't bring up anything out of their closet, wouldn't challenge them on anything that they have already done. Okay, well, good vibe sounds to me like a reason to try to, completely quelch any questions. That's what that's about, So the good vibes thing, I don't think is going to go over well. And then the BP guy, he just immediately violated his own good vibes and started talking about the mayor. And get this, Harry. Now, this guy's running for mayor. Well, usually if somebody runs for one office, you don't endorse another candidate. You know what I mean? You run your own race, and you don't really jump on the bandwagon of somebody else running. But he's fully endorsing Mr. Burrell, who's facing a female candidate, Deb Hopkins, who's going to really give him a run for his money. And I hope she gets in. Need a woman on the council. And then there's a Mr. Howell Gibbons running against one of the other Bs, the brown one. And then Joshua Gammon is running against Mr. Boone, who is the grandfather catalyst, the father of Scott Boone. So there's all kind of interrelationships there in Fairhope, you might say.
So any other hot
well, I want
down
to
there?
I want to get down to Gulf Shores. I've heard some things that are going on down there about the apartments that inspired some people to run. And by next week, I'm sure that we will really be in full mode by next week. And we should have the skinny on just about everybody that's running. And what we could do, Harry, is use your forms here and then come up with another one that's, can show some of the catalyst candidates where people can see where they're placed. Now, you're facing a catalyst candidate yourself, right?
The first time I ever met Dane Haygood and the tax man Elliott was in Bob Will's conference room, and he hired them to run his first campaign in 2012.
Well, Mr. Wills has lived up to the name.
Meeting.
Well, Mr. Wills has lived up to the name of Catalyst, I tell you. I hope Bay Minette wakes up.
You never. They might. Hope springs eternal. So, Paul, let's talk about the special report.
That's the Reuters.
Reuters,
Reuters,
an international news magazine of all places, has done the first comprehensive accounting of judicial misconduct nationally, reviewing 1,509 cases from the last dozen years, 2008 through 2019, in which judges resigned, retired, or were publicly disciplined following accusations of misconduct. In addition, reporters identified another 3,613 cases from that same time period in which states disciplined wayward judges but kept hidden from the public key details of their offenses, including the identities of the judges themselves. All told, 9 out of every 10 judges were allowed to return to the bench after they were sanctioned for misconduct, which is atrocious.
That's
so do you want to talk about guess where the worst place in the whole wide world is, according to Reuters?
High-stepping turkeys, and you know what to say about a high-stepper.
Yeah, that'd be Alabama. The Alabama
Yeah.
Inquiry Commission. So
Well,
let's talk about old Judge Hayes. Judge Hayes put this young lady in jail for 400 and I don't know, a long time, almost 500 days in jail. While she was in jail because she was too poor to pay her traffic fines, her children were put into foster care. One of them was molested, another one otherwise physically abused. Instead of being removed from the bench, I don't want to spoil it. Give me just 1 second. The judge instead is he just retired July 2nd, full pension benefits, everything. That's from the Montgomery Advertiser. Does that make you want to projectile vomit?
well, I can tell people that are listening that the RIP report has filed complaints with the judiciary, which has never gone anywhere, any of the complaints. We have present complaints with the Alabama Attorney General, who doesn't even have the courtesy enough to return a letter. And then we have another complaint as well with the Ethics Commission involving Councilman Brown in Fairhope using his office for personal gain. And Ethics Commission has yet to reply to even that complaint. And I'm pretty sure, Harry, that they have some little rule or guide that says that they're supposed to reply in X number of days, right? Well, they haven't replied to any of the formal complaints that we have sent in so far. So the judiciary being that bad, I can totally see it. And that's why people around here need to understand just how corrupt this place is. And the corruption starts.
Go read the rules of procedure of the Judicial Inquiry Commission if you want to figure out just how secret something can be. But at the same time, the judge who these allegations are made against, they're made fully informed. They're given a copy of every document. They're given a transcript of every interview with every witness. They're not like a defendant. They're fully informed of everything that's going on with the allegations and the investigation into it.
Right. And nothing is going to happen.
No way to run anything.
Right. It's like the Baldwin County Sheriff's Office investigating itself.
Okay, so Van is here, and I'm probably about to do something very disastrous to our podcast, but I'm going to attempt to change to a different camera.
All right. Hey, you got it.
Have I got him? I can't tell. That's what could be disastrous. Did you?
That's good. Right. That's good. What you got?
Well, so the reason Van's here is because I wanted to talk about the APOS board and in particular Mr. Benefield and the correlation between the power that is held by the Judicial Inquiry Commission. I mean, just imagine you're in a position where it's totally secret and these people are totally at your mercy. Do you understand how that is a breeding ground for absolute corruption? You see what I mean? Yeah. Just like Mr. Benefield, what he did, and of course we have a copy of it around here somewhere. So back in the day, your Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission thing there, Mr. Davis, who used to sign that?
All of the signature spots that used to appear on the Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission forms had a place for the executive secretary in the lower right-hand corner. It started out with the governor's signature and then the executive secretary, the lower right-hand corner and top line. Then you had an area for the attorney general, and then there was a blank area. This is where academy directors sign for graduation certificates, and this is where the academy directors or a person that was being involved in any type of activity where one of these type forms would be used would place their signature. Now Mr. Benefield has his signature as the executive secretary, And then he has the chairman of the executive secretary below him, as far as a signature phase, and there are no other phases. And also he's got this was an instructor certificate, and now they have a certificate validated for 3 years. And then I guess there's another committee. I wasn't there that long then, after 2002, but I guess there's another committee that'll look at it and review your abilities 2 years, 3 years down the road. And that's how they're setting up this phase. I don't know what other forms that could be similar to this that are in existence now, or how they operate in general in respect to things, but I'm sure it all centers around Benefield's signature and void of other people that would be instructing or involved in the programs in respect to any of these activities. But I thought that was unusual when I saw this, ran across it the other day. I'd never really taken note of it, but I have my 304 number certification here, and that was back in 1972. And now it's validated for X number of 3-year period. And, I don't know that I would have survived from 2002 up to 2020 on these validation factors, but the bottom line is that's how it was operating then, and that's how it developed. It was just it was a takeaway of power, and I would say the prestige and ability to have your signature on certain documents that students that you dealt with would be there forever. It all centralized to a central figure, and I guess that's the way he decided he wanted to run things in the future, and it looks like he's done a pretty good job of setting it up that way.
I gotcha. All right, Paul.
What?
Give me another topic, man. Come on.
Oh, well, we can go to something pretty relative is the Alabama Slammer.
Oh, I like that one. I'll help you with that one.
That's Gabe Times. Gabe Times in the Lanyap. DOJ reports documents and show that frequent use of force in state prisons. Now, that's just the upper crust of the problem, of course. Our prisons are in shambles. We got all kind of problems. We've been under one federal mandate after the other. I can't even keep up with them now. I don't know.
So Paul, you remember, I'm going to put you in the Wayback Machine, like our maybe third podcast we ever did.
Yeah.
Cam Ward came on with us.
Right. State
senator, and he's heading this task force to do something about prisons, right? He's
correct.
Chicken Little. So what all this is in response to is this DOJ report, right? And they've basically said, clean your act up, or we're coming in to take over your prison system.
And can put that to the report that we just talked about a while ago about how dirty the judicial system is. And you might see a correlation there to the problem that we have.
Well, so, I mean, Van.
So what's the
you read this report? I mean, what's the solution? I mean, they've beaten people to death, and I mean, is it training? Is it supervision? Is it all of the above?
I think it goes back to the very thing that we talked about before with police training. It goes back to the training from the beginning. Your police officers are trained to handle situations, not react to them. And, that's what I think happens is sometimes, and as well as the mental health thing. I always want to throw that in there because I know that, if I was a police officer and you're called out to deal with somebody who has mental health issues, that's very difficult. But still, I think it's education, training, going all the way back to the prison system and having a prison system that is adequate. It's never been adequate. It's always been bad.
The system has all ran into many problems over the years. I remember well some of the situations that occurred. At one time, we trained correctional officers. In fact, we trained people for Atmore Prison and various institutions that were correctionally oriented on the state level. And, you know, I work closely with a lot of these guards. And one thing that they said that was a lot of the problem was the ability to have good supervision on shifts and to have the number of the manpower they needed on shift, and to be able to have that correlate. And then you go to in-service training. They felt adequate at the time back in the 70s that the job was being done well in respect to basic training concepts. Now, they were trained in the same minimum standards that Alabama police officers were trained. But as far as the use of force and things of this nature and interpersonal communication and other things, all of this was covered, and they did have a big learning experience from all of this. And it helped them in their jobs, but it always went back to having a number of people on duty to perform properly. And that's evidently happened a lot, where people would not show up for work, or people would call in sick or something of that nature, and they couldn't find fillers to place in the situations. And then too, positioning the personnel properly in the areas. I worked in a stockade for a brief period of time. It was a horrible experience to me at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and I'll never forget it. But you know, you had your areas to work in, and then you had this long corridor, and they would always point to me and 2 or 3 others and say, "Y'all gonna be at the other end." Well, you're at the other end, and when it all breaks down, you got to figure out how to get from the other end up to the other, back up to where you're supposed to. And that was kind of intense situations on 2 occasions that I remember. But having the adequate personnel within those blocks that can handle situations when they come up is probably what they're still facing. I mean, it takes an extremely capable, good person to work in the Board of Corrections, and someone who definitely is able to use their individual communication traits and all to be effective. Now, that is a place where communication has to be a big factor.
How long is the training program currently, and where are they trained currently?
They're trained in Selma. I don't really know. I imagine this training program now is 12 to 16 weeks, I would think. Most other training programs are that length of time, but they had a good facility at Selma. They had some very good instructors when I was there I got to know and work with, and they were very capable people in that area. And the people that they were bringing in, they had to really want to do that work. I mean, you know, you're going to work in the Board of Corrections, you're going to have to want to do that work. And I met some very good people. I cannot in any way, shape, form, or fashion condemn the quality of the personnel that were being brought into those programs.
Yeah, I would think more of the issues right now are the facilities.
Probably.
Yeah.
So by failing to adequately staff its prisons, Alabama is contributing to dangerous conditions that give rise to the use of excessive force, the report finds. These conditions, combined with the lack of a grievance system for prisoners or a central way to track repeated allegations of the use of force against particular corrections officers, increases the likelihood that there are officers who repeatedly use excessive force with little or no repercussions. Now, the Attorney General responded and, in summary, Marshall said, while the state takes the DOJ report seriously, it will not, under any circumstances, enter into a consent decree with the federal government to avoid a lawsuit. So, boys and girls, plan on your taxes going up. They're playing all wrong.
Yeah, he went on to say the state of Alabama has worked and will continue to work both to improve our prison facilities to meet and to negotiate with the federal government in good faith, Marshall wrote. But Alabama will not be bullied into a perpetual consent decree to govern our prison system. Well, tell you what, yeah, you will be too if you don't get something done. But that's a heck of an attitude to have, you know. I mean, instead of trying to get something done, each side, I mean, you know, we're saying, well, we're not going to do it because, you're saying the federal government's telling us to do it, you know? Well,
Right.
I wonder how they'd feel in Montgomery if federal troops showed up there.
Well, that's not going to happen, but they're going to come in and take over the prison system with their own staff members. And
Oh,
the state
yeah,
of
they
Alabama
would.
is going to have to reimburse the feds for it. I mean, when these things happen, they're draconian, and they'll come in and say the state of Alabama must build a prison to these standards. They're not going to be asking.
There won't be any. We'll get together and figure out something. At that point, they'll be telling you what you're doing.
Exactly. And then we'll read what Mr. Marshall has to say then.
Yeah, I bet he's going to be elsewhere sucking his thumb.
Yeah, really.
He's a big talker. He ain't got the ass to back up that fight.
Well, I hadn't seen anything come out of the Attorney General's office yet, so I don't know what they're doing up there.
So our superintendent of education has slightly tweaked our back to school plans because the governor extended the safer at home order plus the mask through August 31st. Well, school was supposed to start before then, so everybody's got to wear a mask. Thank you, Mr. Tyler, for your devoted leadership.
Right, but you know as well as I do, and I'll have to say this, that no matter what Mr. Tyler does, it's not going to be right. You know what I mean? It's going to be one of these situations where you're going to have quite a few people disagree with whatever the decision is, unfortunately. But I think when it comes down to it, with kids going back to school, like I said, it's going to be mama who decides that.
I agree. So there's one thing I want to point everybody towards before we get off here. The city of Orange Beach has a YouTube page, and you see their official little seal or whatever right there. And this is a diatribe by their incumbent about all the great things that he's done, and they're gonna go in and put a bunch of money into the toll bridge, Paul, to increase the lanes, to expand the toll plaza. And you can see my comment down here. I'd like a counting of how much public money went into this private toll bridge.
Mr. Cannon doesn't have any opposition.
Oh, he does.
He does?
Yeah. Let me get to that real quick. Let's see here.
That bridge has been a nightmare, and then they want to build 2 or 3 more, you know?
Yeah, it looks like Danny Hayes is running against him. Do you know anything about Danny?
I do not. I will try to find out.
Yeah, that'd be a good one to run down because,
right.
Well, let's just say I believe they could do better. There we are. Danny Myrtle Hayes, Orange Beach, for Orange Beach mayor. And it looks like a whole lot of incumbents are going back in unopposed down there.
Yeah, they are.
Somebody must be happy with what's going on.
Well, both Gulf Shores and Orange Beach are considerably smaller than people think as far as voting residents. And
maybe 10,000 in Gulf Shores.
I think it's under on both. But
when I was there, it was like 3,700.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So, of that, you usually have 50-60% that's not participating anyway, but I think that the elections in Spanish Fort, Daphne, and Fairhope are going to be pretty hot races. And then I'm anticipating the one in Bay Minette's going to get rather warm too.
You think?
I think.
Well, Doodle's still cranking the car for me in the morning.
Well, one of the things that I did mention in the RIP report that a lot of people don't understand is that when you're a politician, you're running for office, and you open up a political site, that site's public. So if somebody wants to comment or ask you a question that you don't like, you don't have the privilege of just deleting that and editing it. That's against the law, because you're violating the free speech of that individual. So these people that are just cutting people off or censoring their site may be thrown in Facebook jail.
Facebook jail. I love it.
Yeah.
So Paul, just if you had to guess, or if you were looking around Bay Minette here, could you identify the mega site? So what you got to look for is this huge wetland on the property, right?
Yeah.
So there's so remember how I told you about these being the headwaters of McCurtain's Creek?
Right.
See that? Okay, so let me take you down while we have all this turned on to the Golden Triangle. See what I mean about the headwaters of Fish River?
Right. Right.
See?
Well, you know, that's going to be problems down the road, years and years down the road. Our, you know, kids will grow up and they'll be in their 20s and they'll say, who in the hell did these developments? Water is going everywhere. What happened here, you know? And why was there no sewer regulation?
It rains, you know, his house gets flooded. Have you ever seen any of that?
That's the world we live in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and what's happening to him is the other side of the street's another county, and they could give a damn that their subdivision is flooding his downstream.
Correct.
Crazy
Correct.
stuff. Well, at least at least Mobile's a cut above Baldwin. We don't have to worry about them putting anything on us but coal ash. How about that? All right, Paul. What else you got, partner?
Well, other than that, just everybody stay tuned to the RIP report, and we'll keep you up to date. Also, the mayor of Foley is not running again. And last but not least, the weather, you know, in Alan Seals, my favorite weatherman, does weather things in the Lagniappe, and he's got a finding a calm before the storm. People have been watching the storm, see them coming pretty close. One's about to come straight up through the center of Florida tomorrow, the next day, and 2 or 3 more off the coast. So
hey, Paul,
everybody,
what's the name of that hurricane?
Pardon me?
What's the name of that hurricane?
I saw it last night. Isaiah?
I can't pronounce it. I call it Hurricane ISIS.
Hurricane what?
ISIS. I've just taken the beating Trump to the punch. He's going to call it Hurricane ISIS. You know he is, especially if it's bad, like Ginovirus.
No, it'll be
made up words.
It'll be that hurricane that hit Florida.
Right. It's definitely going to Florida, Paul, regardless of what anybody says. It's going to.
And when it comes off of Florida, it's going to hit Kansas.
Well, let's hope it doesn't do what Andrew, Katrina. Let me think of how many storms nicked or ran right over Miami and then plowed us.
Oh yeah. Well, the one I always say you got to look for is if you see it come straight through what I call the chute, and that's between Mexico, the tip of Mexico, and the Caribbean islands on the other side, which is
like Grand Cayman or something.
Right. If it comes straight through there and it's headed into the Gulf, then it's going to come close to us almost every time.
So, but this thing's supposed to yaw, though, right? It's supposed to hit the eastern seaboard.
It's supposed to go back up to the east. In fact, what we may get is really, really pretty weather where it'll just be sucked out. The air will be sucked out from this area.
So Paul Rip's home phone number is, and if you'd like a political sign, please call my campaign manager. Actually, I'm my own campaign manager, and we don't have signs yet, but we're getting them, and we'll set up some kind of web page or whatever, Facebook page.
Yeah, we'll get going next week.
Yeah, we got to hit the ground running. This whole thing running for mayor, we're kind of behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, but see, you're in the same situation up there as they are down here. These are catalyst players. Catalyst people that are all involved with each other, and they have their own motivation, and they scratch each other's backs, and that's what you don't want to have happening. So
next week, I'm going to go to the probate website and print off everyone's what is it, the campaign finance forms that are required to be filed with probate judge weekly, and then it'll show where all the money's coming from, which of course will all be PACs from the catalyst candidates, right? And then where it's going to.
Well,
and I thought something that you might find was interesting that my opponent, the incumbent, who kicked me out of the municipal building only to rent it to the company that he's using to print all his paraphernalia for the election. So, circle of life, brother. It's a circle of life.
Right.
All right, Paul. I'm about done for the day. What's
okay,
on?
everybody be safe. Should be a beautiful weekend, and read the RIP report.
I don't know if you've been drinking heavily today, but we have had nothing but terrible weather, and it's been like monsoon season in, that's air. I don't know. I've never seen rain like this.
It's been like that for, it seems like a week.
I'm talking about you go out and walk in your yard and it's mushy. Like,
right.
It's bad. So don't plan on going to the creek this weekend.
Well, my oranges are liking all that rain. I can tell you that.
Yeah, mine are making pretty good progress too. I've been impressed, and a lot of my things that were dying off just because of the heat are kind of perked back up just from being overcast for 2 weeks. So yeah, that's exactly what we need is a damn hurricane to come rain on top of that with a bunch of wind and blow every tree over south of Montgomery. If it did, if we got a hurricane right now, there wouldn't be a tree left standing. It is saturated.
If you're in Fairhope, be sure if it's raining to watch out for those oil slicks.
Oh, and we really need to get some erosion control going on the historic bluff that used to have a train track running down it. I found a picture of that, Paul.
Well, that's what I mean. They call that a historic bluff, and yet it's divided by a main road that goes to a pier. Oh my goodness!
It's a beautiful historic thing. We need to save it, Paul.
Right. Take care, man.
All right. Y'all have a good one.
God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I hope I may say comrades and friends, before your minds, I exempt myself from the Speaker's kind offer of protection that was so generously proffered at the opening of this evening. Anyone who wants to say anything abusive about or to me is quite free to do so, and welcome, in fact, at their own risk. It's not just the right of the person who speaks to be heard. It is the right of everyone in the audience to listen and to hear. And every time you silence somebody, you make yourself a prisoner of your own action because you deny yourself the right to hear something. In other words, your own right to hear and be exposed is as much involved in all these cases as is the right of the other to voice his or her view. Indeed, as John Stuart Mill said, if all in society were agreed on the truth and beauty and value of one proposition, all except one person, it would be most important, in fact, it would become even more important, that that one heretic be heard, because we would still benefit from his perhaps outrageous or appalling view. In more modern times, this has been put, I think, best by a personal heroine of mine, Rosa Luxemburg, who said that the freedom of speech is meaningless unless it means the freedom of the person who thinks differently. My great friend John O'Sullivan, former editor of the National Review, and I think probably my most conservative and reactionary Catholic friend, once said, it's a tiny thought experiment, he says, if you hear the Pope saying he believes in God, you think, well, the Pope's doing his job again today. If you hear the Pope saying he's really begun to doubt the existence of God, you begin to think he might be onto something. Well, if everybody in North America is forced to attend at school training in sensitivity on Holocaust awareness and is taught to study the final solution, about which nothing was actually done by this country or North America or the United Kingdom while it was going on, but let's say as if in compensation for that, everyone's made to swallow an official and unalterable story of it now, and it's taught as the great moral exemplar, the moral equivalent of the morally lacking elements of the Second World War, the way of stilling our uneasy conscience about that combat. If that's the case with everybody, as it more or less is, and one person gets up and says, you know what, this Holocaust, I'm not sure it even happened. In fact, I'm pretty certain it didn't. Indeed, I begin to wonder if the only thing is that the Jews brought a little bit of violence on themselves. That person doesn't just have a right to speak. That person's right to speak must be given extra protection, because what he has to say must have taken him some effort to come up with, might contain a grain of historical truth, might in any case give people to think about why do they know what they already think they know. How do I know that I know this, except that I've always been taught this and never heard anything else? It's always worth establishing first principles. It's always worth saying, what would you do if you met a Flat Earth Society member? Come to think of it, how can I prove the Earth is round? Am I sure about the theory of evolution? I know it's supposed to be true. Here's someone who says there's no such thing, it's all intelligent design. How sure am I of my own views? Don't take refuge in the false security of consensus and the feeling that whatever you think, you're bound to be okay because you're in the safely moral majority. My own opinion is enough for me, and I claim the right to have it defended against any consensus, any majority, anywhere, any place, any time. And anyone who disagrees with this can pick a number, get online, and kiss my ass.